Hi, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome into this week's Friday cataloging webinar. Today, I'm going to be talking all about our some copy cataloging resources and also talking through some of the workflows for copy cataloging. So I'm going to go ahead and get my screen shared here so I can show what all we've got going on. Let me full screen this. Sorry. Trying to organize all the windows here so I can show you what we've got going on. All right, get Google Chrome. Perfect. So uh, we've got our, let me actually make this in slideshow mode. Yeah, so this week we're talking about some copy cataloging resources, pardon, that we have available on LS Community, as well as some of the workflows involved with copy cataloging and LS2 cataloging. So I'm going to jump over to LS2 cataloging here to talk through some of the resources and things that are available. And actually, I do want to go to community because that's going to be the best spot to access a lot of this documentation that we have already. And then I'll show how you can utilize that documentation we've created in your cataloging workflows. So here on our main LS community site, and if you are not currently a member, like available and to access LS community, highly recommend reaching out to your library administration or also reaching out to support to getting access to LS community because we have a bunch of great information on here as far as documentation and with release notes and things, but also within our catalogers corner, which is the sort of home for all of the documentation and blog posts and things that Kim and I create for our Library.Solution catalogers. So here on Catalogers Corner, we do have all of our like blog posts that are up here. And you can click read all and it will give you a whole feed of all of the blog posts. And you can also subscribe so that you get those blog posts and things sent to your email, which is very helpful. And then also down here is where we keep all of our documentation on all things cataloging. So we have information on authority control and authority records, and then also the management of those. And so we have lots of recordings of past webinars in there. And then also, workflows and best practices and also things about the future. So linked data information and more about standards and things like that. So we have a lot of great information here. And then we do also have a feed here of our cataloging webinars and Q&A sessions that are all here. And this is in a like a playlist on our training videos YouTube channel. So got lots of great information here on LS Community. And so I'm going to start by showing you some of the documents that are available here and where you can access them for learning about copy cataloging and some great resources. So we do have this copy cataloging and online databases document here. And I've already got this open here. So this is a post that Kim put together, and it has got a great information on a long list of different databases and places where you can search for information on all different types of bibliographic information, be it on title metadata, if you want to search for existing MARC records or existing records and cataloged information on particular titles using the British National Bibliography or searching Library of Congress or WorldCat, Wikidata are great options for finding information about a title. And then also more specific databases on different parts of the bibliographic information. So lists on contributors and names. So from the Library of Congress authorities, and then the Virtual International Authority file, and then also the Getty Union list of artist names, which is a really great resource if you are cataloging uh, or doing archival work. That's a really great resource. Additionally, for series titles, uh, Library of Congress has some series titles in there, but oftentimes, they may have them in the uniform titles section, or they may have them in series titles, or they can be kind of split up. And also, Library of Congress has kind of decreased creating those, sort of verified headings for series titles over time. So it kind of leans on using the verified local authorities that's available within LSU cataloging, and also because different libraries may want their series to display differently. You may want to, display them in a specific format that makes sense for your collection. So utilizing different databases and websites for series information can be super helpful. Goodreads is a really great resource for finding content to describe materials based off of readers themselves. So this is a great way to describe information that is going to resonate best with your patrons, especially if you are, in a public library. So that they'll be able to find you'll be able to find user created genres and subjects and content wordings, all sorts of things like that that might be helpful to include in your bibliographic record for your library. So leaning on user generated information for insight into what a book is about and how best to describe it based off of people who have already read the material can be really helpful, because as much as we wish that we could all read every book that's coming in to be cataloged, so we know it well and know how to describe what the book is about and the genres and things like that, it's just not really possible most of the time. So leaning on resources created by other users who have read the material can be really helpful. And there's also this Mid-Continent PL list of juvenile series and sequels, which can be very helpful for some of those like large branching series that have many, many titles in them, with prequel series and all of that. So it can be very helpful for series specific information. And additionally, as far as genres, subjects, and notes, using all of these kinds of resources, whether it is a more um, specific database, whether it's like fantastic fiction, which has their own list of genres and things like that, or the cozy mystery list, which is only very specifically about one specific genre of literature, or whether it's a more broad one like the Library of Congress genre and form terms, or using fast subjects, or using other more specified databases like IMDb or the movie database and things like that for finding information on movies that you might be cataloging. So there's some really great resources out there if you aren't able to find a really comprehensive, already cataloged title record. And I'll show what that looks like of finding those and then being able to pull in information from other sources. And additionally, there are a couple of linked data endpoints that you can access if you are familiar and comfortable using Sparkle queries, where you can use these to search with these queries to get back information on a particular title. But also a lot of these do have more user-friendly search interfaces that we're more familiar with. I know that the Mesh and Getty vocabularies and Wikidata all have those, and I'll show those as well. But you can get much more specific and detailed query searching this way if you are familiar with that. So we've got some really great resources that are all here. And I also want to touch on one other document that can be very helpful for you all as you are trying to find resources for getting records for copy cataloging. Kim recently updated the preferred Z3950 target libraries document here. And so this is out of a bunch of research and information shared from customers. A lot of you all have probably shared information that has gone into this, as well as information from our internal support staff and from Kim and myself of doing testing and accessing a bunch of these different libraries. And so we have a new document here with a long list of libraries that we have had really great success being able to connect to and return results. And they're from, a whole wide variety of states and different types of libraries, whether they're, academic libraries or public libraries and things like that. So we've got a lot of great information here to be able to pull from other catalogers in the field. So these are really great resources to add to your Z3950 search profiles in LS2 preferences. And additionally, we also have a couple of other ones are here, including the LC Folio catalog, which was recently reintroduced. And Kim wrote 2 blog posts that are on LS Community, and I'll show those here. So here we've got our, under read all, that. So we have 2 blog posts. We have our Z3950 access to the LC catalog now available, and this details all of the connection information that is available. So this is the connection information for the UTF-8 database and the port and address for it, and then also for the names and subjects authority databases, which is helpful if you are using Bibliophile or another cataloging client, if you are using those to connect and find information there. And also the National Library Service for the Blind and Print Disabled Union Catalog. So there's some really great resources here for pulling in information for copy cataloging. And additionally, well, that's the connection information. There is a little bit of difference in the attributes that are supported from the sort of default search profiles that are created in LS2 preferences. When you create a new search profile, there are a couple of attributes that are no longer supported on this new Folio server, namely some of the other standard numbers, like I believe the government document number and publisher number, I think, are no longer supported here. And an additional one that's available is also the OCLC number. So that can be added to the standard numbers section as well. So there are a couple of differences in the attributes that you'll want to change in order to make sure that your connection goes through correctly and that your searches return results. But also something I do want to mention, and maybe something that's come up from our catalogers here in our session today, but it's something that has come up in talks with support and some cases that have come in. Unfortunately, I don't think that the Library of Congress Folio Z3950 server is able to support the number of people reaching out to it right now, because there are times when you are able to search for a record and you just don't get any results back. And this is something that Kim and I have both experienced, and it's not generating an error or anything. So we know it's not something on the side of LS2 cataloging, like those searches are going out, but we're not getting any results back. So Kim and I were chatting about this earlier, and we think that it might be that they just can't support the number of people that are searching. So if you are searching the Folio Z3950 access and don't get any results back, that is probably why. Another option for getting those LC records is also using MARC, which is one of our paid add-ons for LS2 cataloging. And you don't have to be a 5X customer. You could be a 4X or a non-TLC ILS customer. But we have a authority and bibliographic records databases that are all available. And so those can be configured to be search profiles within LS2 cataloging, and makes it a really easy and smooth searching experience to get back Library of Congress records and from all other types of sources, as well as from some customers who are providing records as well. So there's quite a few options for getting Library of Congress records. And additionally, you can also search on the Library of Congress website and search in their catalog. And there is a download MARC record button there. So you can download MARC records, or you can download the BibFrame records and convert them to MARC. So there's a couple of different options for accessing those. But from LS2 cataloging, if the folio is search is not returning results, know that as long as there's not an error, it's nothing wrong on your end, and it's not LS2 cataloging. It's something, as far as we know, it's something on the side of the Library of Congress. So just as a heads up about that. But that's most of what I want to talk about as far as the documentation we already have and some of the resources available. And now I want to kind of walk through what it looks like for copy cataloging in LS2 cataloging, what it may look like for finding an already existing bibliographic record, or in this instance here, for a very brand new sort of odd material, a video game, and then pulling in data elements to enrich a bibliographic record from different sources. So first, I want to show what the most standard copy cataloging workflow will be, which will be to add in a standard number. And again, this is a free text box, and you can scan or type in that standard number. So I was able to copy it from a web page and paste it in here. But if you have a barcode scanner set up at your workstation, you can just scan the ISBN on the back of the material or the UPC, and it will add it as a search, as a title search here. And we can select the magnifying glass here to actually search for that title. And so no matter what type of search you're doing, if you're doing it from an advanced, if you're doing a more complex search for a combination of a title and a format and a date and things like that, or if you're just doing a standard number search, the first results that will always come back are your local ones. And this is so that we can prevent excess duplication of titles, so that you have you have a very minimal database, and so that you don't have to duplicate your work or anything like that. So that's something that I really love, is that your local results are always going to come back first. So that's something that can really streamline your process and be like, oh, I already have this title, I just need to add my item to it. Or I have this title, but it's not a super great title record, I might want to add some information to it. So you can see those results here. And then I am an ItsMark customer. So my ItsMark searching is configured to show up X. So I have all of my results here from ItsMark, and we have a database column here, which shows exactly what database these records are coming from. So this LC MARC is the Library of Congress database. So I do have the record coming from Library of Congress here. You can choose to review it and see what sort of information is in here. And we've got some great information, like a good summary and some genres. But we are missing some subject headings, which could be helpful for this material. And then also we do have the rest of these are all from ConSP, which is our Contributed Schools and Publics database, which is a super helpful database, thanks to the help of many of our customers who are contributing records to this database, which make it a really great resource for finding high quality records that are cataloged by other catalogers in the field. So they are a really great jumping off point for some copy cataloging. So I can scroll through here and see some that might be interesting. I want to review this title, and it looks like, I've got my summary, genres. Looks like it's very similar to the LC record. Also here, yep, looks like the same. Make sure this, yep. Can see if there are others here that have other information. So this one is a more minimal style of record, doesn't have quite all the same information. You might find some that have lots of great information added to them, or some that might want a little bit of tweaking depending on your preferences for how you catalog your materials. So, but I think that these are a really great jumping off point for me if I were to select these. But I also have some other search profiles set up here. So I do have one of the other preferred sources is the Dallas Public Library. Dallas Public Library is a really great resource for finding title records, especially Spanish language materials. Just had one of our training team members reach out to me and say, "Hey, I'm looking for a great resource for Spanish language materials. Do you know of any of them?" And Dallas Public Library was the first one that came to mind because they usually get a large number of Spanish language materials for brand new books that are published in Spanish, whether they are originally published in Spanish or they're like translations of English or non-English titles into Spanish. They have a really great and robust collection, and they have some really excellent catalogers there. So highly recommend checking out Dallas Public Library if that's something that you would like to see more of in your catalog, especially if you don't have native Spanish speaking cataloging staff. Reaching out and utilizing the sources created by other catalogers who are more experienced in other languages is a really great way to have a more inclusive and comprehensive catalog and search experience for your patrons when even when it's outside of your personal experience or expertise. So leaning on the expertise of other catalogers and other librarians in the field can be really helpful. And that's one of the great things and things I love about librarianship is that so many of us are able to share our experience and our knowledge with others through these cataloging resources, which is really wonderful, I think. So I can search here for this record and see this is one from Dallas Public Library, and it has, all the same information as the Library of Congress one. So I've got my genres, but it also has a great number of topical subjects here, including some BISAC headings, which is very helpful. So this is a great resource, a great record that I would choose, but we'll kind of step through some of the other ones that are available. Some of these may not return results, or you may also see that some come in, like this from Penn State University, is all capitalized. So that kind of it makes me think as a cataloger that this is probably a vendor created record, especially because it's got some missing information in here. So I bet this doesn't have a whole lot of information. Yeah, it's a very sparse record here. Doesn't give a whole lot of information to me. So it's probably not going to be useful for me. But that's something to look out for if you see some information in here that's all capitalized or some odd missing information. You think, maybe that's not the one I want to grab for copy cataloging. And I also did set up the Library of Congress Folio Z3950 search profile, and I did return my result here for this one. And I can look and see that, yep, this is our record, that the same one that we have in our it's MARC subscription as well. So we've got a great sort of base record here to add more information to. But I think the Dallas Public Library was my favorite one I've seen with all of the great subjects. So that saves me a lot of time of searching different databases like fantastic fiction or something if I want to find different helpful subjects. And so I can go ahead and select this title and add it to my title space. And so I can see that I added this from a source and it says Z3950 and I can mouse over it and it shows that it is from the Dallas Public Library. So that's a helpful thing to know. And I can show that it was loaded in to my environment here into my title space, but it's not yet published. So I can make any necessary changes to this bibliographic record that I need before I'm ready to finish publishing it and adding in my items to it. So that's sort of the standard copy cataloging workflow that you may be using for a lot of your materials, especially ones that have standard numbers that you can search by, whether it's a ISBN or UPC, which the UPCs are much more commonly used for items like DVDs, Blu-rays, playaways, things like that. So those are that's like the basic, most common copy cataloging workflow that we will step through. The next one I want to show is a um, more akin to original cataloging. But oftentimes, original cataloging, you're looking at the physical material in front of you, you have it in your hands, and you are pulling all the information from that. Um, and while that is super helpful and is often the case for especially like genealogical materials or archival materials, even when you are doing cataloging for those types of materials, you are oftentimes reaching out to other types of resources online or reference books and things like that to grab some more of that descriptive information that's helpful for the search and discovery of those materials. So I'm going to come into my title record here and begin to edit this. So I decided I was going to work on cataloging the new Pokemon Pokopia game. It is slowly taken over my life. So this is what I do in all of my my free time is playing this Pokemon game, which is very fun. Highly recommend if you are into cozy life sim and Pokemon games. But when I was searching for this record, searching for a record for this video game, I was not able to return any results by a UPC or by a title search or anything like that when I was searching here in LS2 cataloging or searching the Library of Congress database or WorldCat or any of that. I wasn't returning anything. So I figured I'll just create my new title here in LS2 cataloging and start adding in information, pulling from different resources from online. So I want to show what it looks like for using other databases for finding information. So the first one I thought of to reach out to was Wikidata, which has become a really great resource for me personally. If I am cataloging basically anything, this has been my like go-to space for finding information on a material, whether it's a book or in this case, a video game or a DVD or even a piece of equipment. If it's a webcam or a microphone or something, Wikidata is a really great resource. This is a linked data resource that's built off of Wikipedia. And this is an open source and an open edit data set. So just like with Wikipedia and other open data sets and user generated information, there's some discretion that might be necessary, but it can be a very great resource for compiling a lot of different information together and gives me a great jumping off point for some descriptive cataloging here. So one of the things that I love is the language section up here, which is up top. So this gives me a great resource for some alternative titles. So for, this is the same title in English and in Spanish, but in Chinese, it has a different label here. So I can copy this title and I can add this as an alternate title in my record here so that it is accessible for my for all of my patrons. So that's a great resource here. And additionally, there are other instances, and this is set out a little bit differently, but it's essentially this is another way of organizing bibliographic information about a particular material. So there are some really great information here, including this title here in Japanese as well. So I can copy the Japanese title and add that into my record as an alternate title as well. And save that as a draft. Come back over to our Wikidata page. This is something that I thought was very helpful, is that there is a genre section as well as a part of series. And this is something that hadn't occurred to me, but it could be very helpful, is for labeling this as a Pokemon side series title, since it's not part of the mainline games. Like the ZA that just came out, it's not part of the mainline turn-based Pokemon style games. It's in the universe, but a totally different type of game. So having this as part of a separate series than the main Pokemon could be helpful, or adding it as to that main Pokemon series and then having a separate one for the side series could be helpful. So I am searching here, and this was pulled in from the wiki data. So there's not a LC series title for this, but I can create a new local authority for it. So Pokemon side series, and I can add in my source notes as well. So I could go ahead and add in the identifier for the Wikidata page here and add that as a new series title. And then I can also add in, let's see if there is one for Pokemon there. So again, a lot of these are going to be for the um, books, its series, the mangas and things like that. So I may want to create my own series title here, or a uniform title for the video game series. So that would be one that I would want to add in the future. Additionally, this Wikidata page was also very helpful for finding out information on the developer and the publishers for this material. So I was able to add in the Pokemon Company, Game Freak, and Omega Force, which were the three developers of this material, and then also the publishers. But something I came across that I wanted to highlight was when I was searching for Nintendo, which actually it wasn't listed as a developer, just as a publisher. When I searched for Nintendo, I got a couple of different results here. I got Nintendo of America, and then I also got this Nintendo Kabushiki Kaisha authority record, and then also a musical group. So I knew right off the bat I could get rid of musical group because that's not relevant here. But I wasn't sure whether this was published by Nintendo of America or by this other authority record. So I went and did a little bit of research. So I went to the Library of Congress. I'll go through these steps again. So I went to our linked data service here on Library of Congress and went to the name authority file. And then I went ahead and searched just for Nintendo and was able to pull back a list of name authorities, including the Nintendo of America. So we can select this record. Seems like my internet's being a little bit slow this morning, so hopefully it will load. There we go. So we have Nintendo of America that also shows us Nintendo parentheses firm. That's how it may have been seen previously. But this one, it shows that, this was a publisher of Super Smash Bros. Melee. So this is one of them that could be used, but then I also selected Nintendo Kabushiki Kaisha, and this looked like this was also a verified authority here. And this also showed for maybe some other types of materials. Like this one shows that it's more for looks like more of the some games and some mangas are here. But what I was able to see is that this is Nintendo Co. And this seems like more it's the Japanese arm of the Nintendo company. And that is who published this material in Japan, and then Nintendo of America published this material here in the US. So, and I was able to learn that from both here and also doing some other research on the actual Wikipedia page for this, and also on, I think, the Pokemon wiki, which is called Bulbapedia. So there's some resources out there that I was looking at for different things. So I actually do want to choose Nintendo of America for this particular authority. So I'll just go ahead and delete that one and search for a new one. Search for Nintendo of America and select that one. And it is one of the publishers of this, since I bought the US version of this material. So, and then also from this Wikidata page, I was also able to find other information like a genre, like this is a life simulation or a life sim game. And that is one of the genres we had added in here from the video game genre terminology thesaurus, which is a great resource. And that's one that we've added in here to our thesaurus already. So if you are cataloging video games or tabletop games, board games, card games, anything like that, we really do have a great resource and a great existing collection of genres and genre terms in here that can be really helpful. If you come across any that seem to be missing, feel free to submit an idea on LS Ideas for us to add some because we know that new genres and types of games are coming out all of the time. And if there's something that doesn't quite fit and you're missing something that could be really helpful, just please reach out to us and we can get that added. So I do want to add life simulation video games. And I can add additionally subjects in here. So there wasn't anything I saw that would be really applicable to subjects from our Wikidata page, but this is about Pokemon, so I can definitely add at least the subject for Pokemon. See if there's one. Yeah, so Pokemon fictitious characters, so that could be a great topical subject here because this is, a Pokemon centric game. Additionally, down here in our characteristics field, which is very important for some of our these more specific audio visual materials, I can add in the gaming console. So this is for Nintendo. Oh, and see, there is something that we definitely need to update. So we have here Nintendo Switch, but we don't have the console of Nintendo Switch 2 yet in our gaming consoles. So that is going to be added to my list. I'm going to make a note right now so I don't forget. Perfect. All right. So just thought of that. And this is something that Kim and I, we are adding and updating regularly, like once a year at least, that we're adding new terms and things like that. So this is something that, the console just came out recently. So it makes sense that we don't have it in our list yet. So that's something I do want to make sure and add. So I'll just add Nintendo Switch right now because it is a Switch 2 exclusive, but that will be definitely something that we add here in the future soon. And it is, I did already catalog this and format it as a video game. And I can also add the ratings, which I believe was a section here in our, in this section here on Wikidata. And this also does have great information on the individual contributors for a particular work, including the directors and producers. So the developers who actually worked on this material, if you want to add those in there, which is very helpful. There's also review information in here, which could be very helpful and useful for including in some bibliographic information for some patrons who really like to know, if whether it's from OpenCritic or something like that. So, and let me see. Yes, so ESRB rating, this is rated E for everyone, or the CERO rating is rating for A. So we do have some ratings here that's I can add into our record. So this is rated as E. And it's also rated A. I think those were the two main ones I wanted to add. Yeah, rated A and rated E. So it's also PGI 3. So those are some, it's a great resource for finding some rating information. And then also there's other information in here that you may want to add, whether some reference websites here to add in to the bibliographic record for patrons who may want to find more information about this as well. And I did add the UPC for this particular material in here, my standard number. And then because I wasn't able to get back a result from Syndetics for enhanced content on this material with a cover art, I did end up grabbing the image URL from Wikimedia for the cover art so that it does display correctly. Do definitely recommend hosting these images on either an image hosting site or on your website if you do grab them from somewhere else. Because these could change over time. Wikimedia could take this image down and then it breaks, or some companies really don't like it when you are grabbing their images for your records. So just as a heads up, this just for display purposes, and then I'll delete this record. But that's sort of what the copy cataloging um, whole environment looks like. And I did want to touch on one more thing before I jump over to questions. Is also another really great resource for particularly a lot of like ebooks and book titles and things like that is WorldCat. And this is a great resource for finding information. This is the sort of OCLC search, sort of their union catalog, essentially, for all of these materials. And these are, records that are generated from all of these member libraries and kind of mashed together in here. But something I wanted to note that has happened recently is that if you are not signed in to a WorldCat account, like I had to create one this morning and sign in, if you are not signed in and you want to choose show more information, which is where they include some great stuff like subjects and the OCLC number for this record, physical description, ISBN, genres, all of that stuff that you probably want to grab for your bibliographic record you're creating in LS2 cataloging or enhancing, you will have to sign in. Before it would give me this, hey, you should sign into OCLC with an account so that you get this. So just as a heads up, it is free to make a WorldCat account. It's not something you have to be a member or pay or anything. You do have to create a account, and this is sort of like a individualized account where you can add, books to lists and things like that. But that's something I wanted to note, a change recently, because previously, even if you weren't signed in, you could see this information before. So just a heads up if you are using WorldCat regularly for pulling descriptive information on titles. So that's most of what I wanted to cover as far as copy cataloging, some of the resources available, and things like that. So now I want to jump over to if we have any questions.
There are a couple.
All right. Let's see here. I'll start with the Q&As. And thank you so much, Anita, for asking this. That's a really great question. Anita asked, does anybody have a good website for book release dates since Baker and Taylor shut down? I'm not having great luck with Ingram or Barnes and Noble. That's a really great question. I know that at least that was something included on this page of Wikidata, like the either announcement date and then also the actual release date, I believe was up higher on the publication date here. So checking out Wikidata for that particular book could be helpful. Actually, I do want to do that here. I'll search for, I gotta move my windows around. I can't see. I've got Zoom stuff on top of everything. There we go. Let's see. Okay. So I don't think that I've got a page yet for the book. So, it could be hit or miss depending on what you're pulling back here yet. So there doesn't look like there's a Wikidata page yet for this particular book, but that is one option. And if you have, Janice also said Publishers Weekly could be helpful, calendar of new release dates. So yeah, using some of those more like trade magazines for things like Publishers Weekly could be very helpful. If you have any other suggestions, feel free to leave those in the chat. That's very helpful. And, I did list out our sort of preferred Z3950 sources here. But we do also on this page have a form here. Feel free to fill out that form or, put in the chat now if you have any other preferred Z3950 target libraries that you use. We would love to hear those. We love being able to have this space to share amongst catalogers of places that you're accessing information. That's what it's all about. So Let's see. The next one is from Sarah. She said, our patrons love to have the DVDs in series order. Anyone have recommendation for a good website for series order for movies? Never had much luck with IMDb for series, especially since sometimes series are published out of chronological order, like the Alien movies. Yeah, that's a really great question. I don't know off the top of my head if I can think of any for series of movies that could be a great list of that. That's a really great question. If any of you all are cataloging movies, yeah, Wikipedia for movies in order. That's what I was going to say, Anita. That's probably be my best uh, thought of uh, where you might be able to see them in chronological order for movies as opposed to release order. So Wikipedia or Wikidata, which is kind of pulling in a lot of information from Wikipedia as well. Yeah, movies like yeah, Alien or the Predator movies, things like that for sure. Um, yeah, definitely. Thanks for that. And Megan asked, do you think records will continue to be available via Z3950 for the foreseeable future? Should we anticipate technological changes that would make this way of sharing records obsolete? That's kind of tough to say, at least from where we're at right now. You know, a lot of libraries are still using MARC. So as long as we're still using MARC predominantly, um, Z3950 is still going to be around. But as and Kim can attest this too, and I'm sure a lot of you all can as well, the number of libraries sharing their records via Z3950 has decreased pretty dramatically over the past couple of years, especially as large academic libraries switch to BibFrame and especially you know the Library of Congress did as well. So they do still have their Z3950 searching open. It's just less. It's a little less robust of searching as it was previously, and we are having some of those like hit issues where it's not returning anything yet. But there's we're still in this sort of like middle ground gray area of part BibFrame, part like data, part MARC records. So I would guess for, at least a couple more years, we will definitely be using Z3950 to be pulling in records. But I think it'll be once a lot of public libraries start to make that shift towards linked data, BibFrame, then we will see that dramatically decrease. But there's a lot of training and cost involved with that too. And so, that may be prohibitive for a lot of libraries, especially small libraries, moving to that as well. So it's hard to say, but that's just something that that's sort of my thoughts. Do you have anything you want to add to that, Kim?
No, we've seen a decline in the number of libraries that are sharing their data. And I also have an idea that the Library of Congress has sort of reduced the number of new titles that they catalog. And I don't know if publishers are not sending them the galleys or whatever it is that Library of Congress uses. But I haven't read anything, nothing, no one's talked about that. It just seemed like that. So
Hmm.
I have a feeling that there's still enough libraries using MARC that will have Z3950 around for a while. So pretty much I agree with you, Rhiannon. We're in this middle place, but we certainly might want to find alternatives to Z3950 so we'll be ready. So we have our online databases all bookmarked and ready to go. So, just because it's going to be fewer and fewer resources. And the
Yeah,
security
for sure.
vulnerabilities, that's also another issue, and budget concerns and all of that.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for pointing that out, Kim, because I know that's one of the things that has come up. I know that Seattle Public Library used to be a just a standard Z3950 access point. They had a really great collection and they cataloged their records really well, but due to security concerns and a whole debacle that happened there, they're no longer sharing them. And Z3950 technology can be is certainly less secure than accessing a linked data database over the web using a browser interface and things like that. So that is a consideration, and as libraries move forward and are wanting to make sure to protect um, protect their content, protect their environment as well. They may choose to stop sharing Z3950. That's why it's so nice to have these browser-based search interfaces where you don't have to use a Sparkle query to do all of that, because it can be a little daunting, and especially if you aren't familiar with writing those queries, it can be um, prohibitive to finding some of that information. So using the more user-friendly search interfaces that we're familiar with from Google and whatnot, like that style of searching, um, they built it with that in mind so that people can find the materials and find information on them. So yeah, as Kim said, bookmarking some of these, the things that are most helpful, can be a great option, or having this document handy when you need it to be able to reach out to different types of databases can be very helpful. Yeah. Anita did ask, what would cataloging in LS2 cataloging be called? Because it's not editing MARC, right? Well, you are just not, it's not a direct MARC editor. It is a form-based editor. And so you are making the changes in these different forms, and then our process as you save that information and publish it is making all of the relevant MARC changes. Yeah, a natural language editor or a form editor for sure. Yes, so it is a little different when you say you're not editing a MARC record anymore. Uh you're just doing natural language descriptive cataloging, um, which I think is really great and a much more user friendly and approachable experience for sure. And Mary did share the moviesinorder.com. That could be a really great resource for movies as well. Yeah, I will definitely check that one out and add it to my bookmarks to check out as I'm cataloging materials as well. Um, yeah, so we've got some great discussion here in the chat. Thank you all so much for sharing about all the resources that you use. Yeah, Discogs for music information. Thank you for that, Mary. That's very helpful for all of that. I've used Wikidata and Wikipedia some in the past for some of the information, but having a more like curated specific database for music information, I think it's really great. I'm gonna write that down right now so I don't forget. So I have that in my list because I love cataloging music, to be able to show all the different bits and bobs of the title editor. So yeah, good stuff. Thank you all so much for sharing all of your resources and what you all are doing for cataloging. Yes, that was actually cataloging music was the very first thing I ever cataloged. I started out with cataloging music CDs, um, which was really just diving headfirst into there. So it's something I love a lot. So um, yeah. Thank you all so much for sharing all of your resources. I hope this has been a helpful webinar and something you can look back on, and especially, share the recording of this when it comes out with your colleagues who may want to have access to these resources, and share these that are available on LS Community. Um, and I do want to pop over to our slide deck real quick, and we'll share that we do have another cataloging Q&A later this month on March 27th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So if you come across any questions you have from just in your regular day-to-day life cataloging and doing tech services and librarianship, feel free to bring those questions. Or if you have anything specific that comes out of the work you do after this webinar related to copy cataloging, sources, anything like that, feel free to bring those to our session in 2 weeks. So thank you all so much for joining us today, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day and a great weekend. Bye, everyone.
Bye.